Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Very good.
You want to succeed, you might be successful, but you keep looking for information, people who can share something that can be able to help you. The question about real estate, and that's why I'm in that field. I keep asking myself, how will Kenya be in the next, let's work with 20 years? For me, I believe the way to proceed and go forward and succeed is working in the long term. You can't work with 1 year, 2 years. Let's work with a long time. And for me, I usually advise more than 5 years and above. Real estate is very important. It is not just in Kenya. People must live somewhere. Anything that we do is sit on land. Whether you do a hospital, whether you do a stadium, it is sit on land. In Kenya and in Africa, because we are not so developed, people will continue constructing homes. And that's where I come in. Maybe if you take a small sample and ask, do you have your own home? If you do ask that question in some forums, it is 1 out of 10 if you are lucky. But the 9 people will tell you, I'm working so hard to give shelter to my family. So some of these statistics, these are numbers. They mean nothing until you try to think what they mean to investment. The relationship between data and investment. And they can be able to help you make a decision for the future. And if you check, I usually check newspaper for articles that give me more information. You'll find information about bypasses, roads. Most Kenyans don't take notice. And these figures I'm flying around tells you that in the next 20 years, you'll have so many people who will require a place they can call home. And that's what we do in Username. So our work is to be able to address that and be able to offer a solution. So in the next 20 years, we have done more than almost 10,000 in terms of numbers. In terms of the customers that we have been able to, who have been able to invest us, but that is a very small amount. There are big opportunities, and that's where you need to invest. So you can get into real estate through buying land, and in Kenya we do it through plots. And the only reason you have to do that is because we know the numbers I was talking about. We are very far from having a surplus. The only challenge we have, some of the places where people are buying plots, there is no road, so you can't live there. You can do housing, and this is usually determined by your objective and budget. Budget is actually key, because there's someone who will tell you, I don't have 1 million shillings, how can I get into real estate? We keep addressing this concern because we are known for affordability. You don't need 1 million shillings. Someone can tell you, I have so many loans. So how do you don't need to apportion so much money, especially if you come to Username Investment. The key is to check what is happening in that particular locality. Are people going to stay there in the next 5 to 20 years? How much infrastructure is going to be there, or will we have infrastructure in that place? And I keep saying this information is available. Sometimes we even share maps ourselves. If you go to all these boards, Kenya National Highway, Ministry of Roads, you find snippets of those maps. If you do your own research, you'll be able to know. There are places where we know they will appreciate, but very slow. But there are places I know. Put your money, in the next few years, you'll find a lot of people living there. Unless the government policy changes, because sometimes it does, that's a lower risk for me. So don't put so much money in a place that is already appreciated. Even in housing, I may not tell someone to go and buy a house in Kileleshwa for investment, unless you are looking at, it's called a pension project where you want to get rent, right? But if it is capital gain, that is the wrong place to put your money. Go to Athi River, places that are coming up. That house can double in price. But moving from 30 million to 60 million, my friend, that is not going to happen anytime soon. now, because we are here today, you don't need to go back to Thika Road. You only need to look for other places that will be Thika Road in the next 5 to 20 years. And that for me is wisdom, and that's where you'll make money. Of course, you can do commercial. These when I say commercial, I'm referring to especially office spaces. Of course, there have been a lag for some time now. Oversupply, I think it is evident. Everyone knows about that. But for me, office space has better returns if you can pull more capital, because you need, the office space is expensive, right? You need more money. So it depends on your budget also. In my own, for me, if I had that money, I would consider an office space. I would struggle to look for a tenant. Of course, you have to be reasonable and go lower a bit so that you get a tenant. But if you look at the Kenyan space, everyone is buying residential. The other part is something called joint ventures. A guy owns 100 million shillings or a billion shillings worth of land. Then you come and tell them as Username, we have this concept, you can be able to develop a gated community of some sort of real estate development that can generate money. Then you share. Him alone, he cannot be able to do it. Then finally, of course, there are those who can, depending on your budgets, accommodation. These are hotels. That's why Airbnb comes in. I've realized Airbnb, especially in Kenya, if you look at the amount you can get as a landlord, if that is an investment, you can get more, most likely than rent, because these guys are paying per night. For me, that keyword is very important in real estate right now. It is not just let's invest in real estate, it is selected. And this means that you have to keep finding out whether it's something that can give you value. If you're looking at these very expensive options, we talked about land, housing, you can do an office space, you can do a hotel, Airbnb, and all those things. You can do rates and all those things. There are places where you realize there are more returns to be made, but you don't have the money. And that's where people come together as chamas. Of course, serious focus chamas. So there are many vehicles. You can use investment groups, chamas. You can go as an individual, or you can do as corporates. So there's also a process which I will not want to dwell so much. I'm happy there are some few lawyers here. I usually refer people to lawyers. I might not be one myself, but I have enough experience. I may say some things and you may not remember. These are technical jargon, but you go to a lawyer, they can be able to help you. It is very important as you invest in real estate. One of the biggest issue is about fraud. And one of the due diligence you need to do, which I keep saying, if you're investing with an established organization like ours, it is very important to do several things. One of the things is to check the history of this organization and check the history of completed projects. Actually, even in housing is the same. You just need to know whether somebody has been delivering on projects. And sio kuona kwa social media, because we market a lot. You need to do that due diligence, do a search, visit projects. We keep telling people in our company, come for site visit. It is free of charge. Hata kama haununui, kuja ujione. Because you have to see the physical property that you are selling. It's a minimum of 25% per annum if you do selected real estate in land. And one of those areas where we have done a lot is Ngong. We also have Kangudo Road and Magadi Road at the point, because we know things will change there. Then I also realize people are not concerned with documentation. You keep, actually even today, we have title deeds in the office. Tunakuambia sasa tutakuletea. You look for these customers physically. Mtu bado anakaa tu na, I'm so busy. By the way, that is dangerous, because somebody who is not good can take advantage of you so easily. Ensure you sign the right document to the end, because if something happens, that is your only defense, or you lose all your money. You have to keep analyzing, and that's where they come in and educating yourself, so that next year you may not go to Ngong. If you are looking for a plot, you go to another area that has other factors. The government can wake up today and say, we are doing a project in Kagudo Road to a tune of this much, and it is going to change the place. And of course, finally, you keep repeating. As years goes by, your portfolio becomes bigger, your financial life keep changing. And someone called Roy Bennett said, dreams don't work unless you take action.